Samsaradava nalaliraloka Tranaya karuna gunagunatvam
Samsaradava nalalidaloka
Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasurasena Romancha Kampa Shutaranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingarathan Mandira Marjanado Yuktasya bhaktam sanyanjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Yuktasya bhaktam sanyanjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptan Haribaksha Sangram
Chaturveda Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptan Haribaksha Sangram
Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Shri Radhika Madhava Yurabhara Madhurya Leela Ganarupa Namna Pratikshanasvadana lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Nikunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Yayali Vir Yukti Rapekshaniya
Nikunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Yayali Vir Yukti Rapekshaniya
Tatrati Daksharati Vallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Sakshadaritvena Samasta Shastre Uktastatha Bhayateva Sarve Kinto Prabhoya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutopi.
Yasya prasada bhagavate. Yasya prasada nagati kutopi.
Jayam stuvam stasa yasatri sadyam. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatharine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Namam Ishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam. ठीक है. Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashodabhiyolukhaladhavamanam Param Dristam Atyantato Dutagopya Yashodabhiyolukhaladhavamanam Param Dristam Atyantato Dutagopya Rudandam Muhurnetram Yugmam Rinjantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satanka Netram Muhurnetram Yugmam Rinjantam Bhoja Yugmena Satanka Netram Muhu Swasakam Patri Rekanka Kanta Shrita Gaiva Damodaram Bhakti Dwadham O Swasakampa Ekam Bhakanga Shrita Gaiva Damodaram Bhakti Dwadham Iti Driksvalilabhir Ananda Kunde Swagosham Nimajantam Akhyapayantam Drikshalilabhirananda kunde Swagosham Nimajantam Akhyapayantam Tadiye Shikyageshu Bhaktarjitatvam Puna Prematastam Satavriti Vande Prematastam Satavriti Vande Varam Deva Moksham Na Mokshavadhim Va Nachanyam Vrineham Rare Sadapiha Varam Deva Moksham Na Mokshavadhim Va Nachanyam Vrineham Rare Sadapiha Idam te vapurnatha gopal balam सदा मे मानस्य वीरस्तं किमन्ये इदं ते नाथा गोपार्णभारम् सदा मे मानस्य वीरस्तं किमन्ये इदं ते मुखं भोजम् अत्यन्तनीलैर्ऋतं कुण्ठलैः स्निग्धरक्तस्य घोटा अन्ते मुखं भोजम् ऋतं कुण्ठलैः स्निग्धरक्तस्य घोटा मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्बारक्ताधरं मे मानस्य वीरस्तं अलं लक्ष्यलभ्ये दुःशुम्बितं बिम्बारक्ताधरं मे
मानस्य वीरस्तं अलं लक्ष्यलभ्ये
नमो देव दामोदर अनंत विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःख जलाब्धिमग्नं नमो देव दामोदर अनंत विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःख जलाब्धिमग्नं कृपादृष्टि विश्याति दिनं व्रतानु गृहाणे क्षमाम्यज्ञम् एदक्षिदिश्या कृपादृष्टिविश्याति दिनं व्रतानु गृहाणे क्षमाम्यज्ञम् एदक्षिदिश्या कुबेरात्मजौ बद्ध मृत्यैव याद्वन् त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजौ कृतौ च कुबेरात्मजौ बद्ध मृत्यैव याद्वन् त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजौ कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकाम प्रयाश्च न मोक्षे ग्राहो मेस्ति दामोदरेह सदा प्रेम भक्तिं मोक्षे भामो मेस्ति दामोदरेह नमस्ते स्तुधाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय अथ विश्वस्वधाम्ने दाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय अथ विश्वस्वधाम्ने नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलायै देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं स्वरं निस्तरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं रसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं रामेश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं रसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं यशोदाभियो लूखलाधवमानं परं दृष्टम् अत्यन्ततोदुतगोप्या Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Damodar, Radha Damodar, Radhe. Radha Damodar, Radha Damodar, Radhe. Jaya Yashoda Damodar, Yashoda Damodar, Hare. Jaya Yashoda Damodar, Yashoda Damodar, Hare. Jaya Radha Nilamadhav, Radha Nilamadhav, Jaya Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Sita Ram Bhakta Lakshman Hanuman, Sita Ram Bhakta Lakshman Hanuman, Sita Ram Jaya Lakshman. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Namaste Narasimhaya, Praladadayine, Hiranyakashipurvakshaha, Shilatankanakalaye, Hito Nashima Parato Nashima, Jato Yato Yami Tato Nashima, Bahir Nashima Hidaye Nashima, Narasinghamadin Sharanam Prapade, Tava Kara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Liranakashipu Tanuvingam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. जय केशवधृत नरहरि रूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की जय भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे
श्री वृंदाई तुलसीबाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवतये नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसीबाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवतये नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवतये नमो नमः जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ए अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ए अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
ये तुम्हारा शरण लय तारा वंश पूर्ण होय
हे तुम्हारा शरण तारा वंश पूर्ण
कृपा कोरी करो तारे वृंदा दासी दीना कृष्ण दास को ये ना मोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये ना बासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये ना बासी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माद्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare
Nitagara Haribol, 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 Nitagara Haribol.
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki. O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavana. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavadams of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me an honored servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna, please. May I always sing in love with Shri Radha. Govind Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikhastakam Ki Jai. Cheto Dapranamajanam Bhava Mahada Vanivapanam Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Shadanam Sarvatmasnam Paramparam Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Ija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpitani Amitashmaranina Kala Etadrishi Tabakupaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idrishamiya Janina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kitaniya Sudahari Nadhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagari Shakamai Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Raituki Tvai Oinandatanu Kinkaram Patitamam Visame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sitaduli Sadrisam Vichintaya Nayanam Galara Shudaraya Badanam Gadagadharudaya Hira Pulakairi Chitam Papukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavisati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakrisa Prabhusaitam Shunya Itam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahina Me Aslishava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshana Madmahatam Karotuva Jatatatava Vidadhatulam Pato Matpranatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikhastakam Ki Jai. Namo Mavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gauri Krishna. Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutarishmate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namini Namaste Saraswati Devam Gaurvani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunnavadi Pasatari Satarine. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditioned life with the period of birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested with transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord on strolling the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet some rather I am fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering one minute to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and should remain so. Even if he handles me rustfully by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sri Kristakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme devotees to dedicate a life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to, independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider the chanting Hare Krishna is one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often veiled as aspirative activities, karma kand. 9. To instruct the faithless person by the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prem. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jivancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo ananta koti vaishnavrinda ki jai. Shri Guru Vandana Mangala Charan ki jai. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jota Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatha Vintam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravane Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadipa Satyadishatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padayo Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shmate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shivarshabhana Videvi Deitaya Kripabdvaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Nama Madhurjo Jala Premadhya Shirupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravane Shimurtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddhapa Siddhanta Dantarine Namagora Kishoraya Sakcha Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambhara Sambhude Parambujayate Nama Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchit Anandanamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Vishwam Nirdesha Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannataya Te Nama Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva Cha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha Panchatattvamakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhakta Avataro Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanto Namostute Jaitam Suratopangor Mama Mandamatir Gatir Masarvasya Padam Bhojo Radha Madaramona Divyavindaranya Kalpadumadha Shmara Nagara Sinasasu Shmaradha Shra Govinda Devo Pristari Visheva Mano Shmarami Shmara Sarasarambi Vam Shvata Tatastita Karshan Venu Swanar Gopir Gopinata Shri Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prasabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Brahma Sangita Ki Jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadi Radhir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakada Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha Lakcha Viteshu Shuravira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevamanam Govinda Madi Purusham Venum Ganantam Aravindarayalatakcham Bharam Bata Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasarvanamalya Vansi Ratnangadam Pranaya Keli Kalavilasam Shyamam Tribanga Lalitani Yata Prakasam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Amletam Achyutam Anadyam Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayoganam Cha Vedesu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastukoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manaso Muni Pungamanam Sopyas Iyat Prapadasimya Vichincha Tatve Govindam Adi Yashaktiras Jaganata Jayayaranta Andantarasta Paramanu Jayantarastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Vyabhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Sanprapya Ruma Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistavanti Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santatsta Deva Idavesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitistan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesa Gintu Krishna Swayam Samabhava Paramam Pamam Yo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya
Prabhavato Jagannath Koti Yati Sasi Sabadadi Vibhuti Vinam Tad Brahma Niskalamanentam Sesa Bhutam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Jaigun Yatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamanam Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Matayam Nasu Ya Praninam Patifulam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasra Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya Devi Maheshwari Dama Sute 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 Te Prabhavani Jaya Vitasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shristi Sati Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chitesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dali Vigara Vishesha Yoga Sanjayate Nayatata Pritakasti Yasam Buddham Adiptam Tampaitikariya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dipachade Vidya Santaram Abhyapetya Dipayate Vibhita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastad Devi Hisha Vishnu Tayavibhati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajali Bhajati Yoga Nidrama Nanta Jagadanda Sarama Kuba Adhara Satyam Avalambi Param Samurtim Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalambi Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalabi Sesha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Sasmi Sakaleshwari Desha Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatiyat Abitat Pratatra Pramaya Esha Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajaya Pada Palavi Ugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesha Kanadi Raj Vignam Vihanta Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamam Bhumarudhi Sasya Kalasta Manasiti Jagatrayan Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Chamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajaya Chaksuresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Sutayasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kita Patagabati Sajiva Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakara Prabhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschendra Gopam Matavendam Hosvakarma Bandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarma Mama Adi Buddhi Vatsalya Mohodar Gora Visevi Bhava Sanchinti Tashita Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sriyanki Anta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatarval Kuma Mishchitamani Dvayamamitam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apyam Vansipyasa Ki Sairandam Shati Param Apitata Swadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Vishavadis Rami Justi Sumahan Nime Sardakyu Bhavajiti Nahiyatri Samaya Pajisvita Dutram Tamaham Ihikolakamitiam Vidanta Ste Santakshite Virachara Katipaye Shri Guru Vastika prayers Ki Jai. The spiritual masters receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. Are from my respectful basin at the lotus feet of such spiritual masters, an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always glad by the dharma movement as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion with his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. Are from my respectful basin at the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. His spiritual master always engaged in temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in pure. They clean their temple and perform other similar worship. O Lord, I offer my respectful basis on the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. Spiritual masters always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful basis on the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. Spiritual masters always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master surprises relatives at every moment. I offer my respectful basis on the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. Spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting gopis who at different times with different tastes and arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble basis on the lotus feet of such spiritual master. This spiritual master is to be honored as much the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all real scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful basis on the lotus feet of such spiritual master as a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, I receive the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, I cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. So, for my respectful basis on the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're continuing in the Krishna book. and hearing more about the Damodar Astakam. So, we're in chapter 30 of the Krishna book. And it says, in this way, all the gopis were madly feeling the absence of Krishna. They inquired about him from the trees and plants. In some places, they found the imprints of the marks on the soles of his feet, namely the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, the thunderbolt, etc. After seeing those footprints, they exclaimed, "Oh, here is the impression of the marks on the soles of Krishna's feet. All the marks, such as the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, and the thunderbolt, are distinctly visible here." They began to follow the footprints, and shortly they saw another set of footprints besides them, and immediately they became very sorry. "Dear friends, just see, whose are these other footprints? They are beside the footprints of the son of Maharaj Nanda. It is certainly Krishna passing through, resting his hand on some other gopi, exactly as an elephant goes side by side with his beloved mate. We must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with greater affectionate love than ourselves. Because of this, although he has left us, he could not leave her company. He has taken her along with him. Dear friends, just imagine how the dust of this place is transcendently glorious. The dust of the lotus feet of Krishna is worshipped even by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. But at the same time, we are very sorry that this particular gopi has gone along with Krishna, for she is enjoying the nectar of Krishna's kisses and leaving us aside to lament. Oh friends, just see. At this particular spot, we do not see the footprints of that gopi. It appears that because there were some pinpricks from the dried grass, Krishna took Radharani on his shoulder. Oh, she is so dear to him. Krishna must have picked some flowers in this spot to satisfy Radharani, because here, where he stood erect to get the flowers from the high branches of the tree, we find only half the impression of his feet. Dear friends, just see how Krishna must have sat down here with Radharani and tried to set flowers in her hair. You can be certain that both of them sat together here. Krishna is self-sufficient. He has nothing to enjoy from any other source. Yet, just to satisfy his devotee, he treated Radharani exactly as a lusty boy treats his girlfriend. Krishna is so kind that he always tolerates the disturbances created by his girlfriends. In this way, all the gopis pointed out the faults of the particular gopi who had been taken alone by Krishna. They said that this chief gopi, Radharani, must be very proud of her position, thinking herself the greatest of the gopis. Yet, how could Krishna take her away alone, leaving all of us aside, unless she is extraordinarily qualified and beautiful? She must have taken Krishna into the deep forest and told him, "My dear Krishna, I am now very tired. I cannot go any further. Please carry me wherever you like." When Krishna was spoken to in this way, he might have told Radharani, "All right, better get on my shoulder." But immediately Krishna must have disappeared, and now Radharani must be lamenting for him. "My dear lover, my dearest, you are so fine and so powerful. Where have you gone? I am nothing but your most obedient maidservant. I am very much aggrieved. Please come and be with me again." Krishna, however, is not coming to her. He must be watching her from a distant place and enjoying her sorrow. All the gopis then went further and further into the forest, searching out Krishna. But when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, they became very sorry. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna had taken Radharani alone, leaving aside all the other gopis. But as soon as they knew that Krishna had left Radharani and that she was alone lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic to her. The gopis found Radharani and heard everything from her about how she had misbehaved with Krishna and how she was proud and was insulted for her pride. After hearing all this, they became actually very sympathetic. Then all the gopis, including Radharani, proceeded further into the forest until they could no longer see the moonlight. When they saw that it was getting gradually darker, they stopped. Their mind and intelligence became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. They all imitated the activities of Krishna and his speeches, due to their heart and soul being completely given to Krishna. They began to chant his glories, completely forgetting their family interests. In this way, all the gopis returned to the bank of the Yamuna and assembled there, and expecting that Krishna must return to them, they simply engaged in chanting the glories of Sri Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 13th chapter of Krishna. Krishna is hiding from the gopis. Well, this is all nectar, because there are many instructions here in the speeches of the gopis and in and Radharani also. So what can we learn from this? Let's go back and go over some of these points. The gopis were feeling the absence of Krishna when he walked away from the Rasa Leela dance with following Radharani. And this feeling of absence of Krishna is Krishna consciousness. We should all be feeling the absence of Krishna. And Prabhupada has explained that everything is in this material world except one thing. In other words, if you go to Fred Meyer or Safeway or any of these box stores, you'll find everything. Right? You'll find vegetables, and you'll find grains, and you'll find all kinds of drinks and all kinds of cereals. And, they just got about everything. They have Band-Aids, they have all kinds of things. Right? There's only one thing missing. There's no Krishna there. Right? You see on his shelf, how to become Krishna conscious. There's tilak, and there's different paraphernalias. There's a whole thali with all the things to offer arti. No, they don't have anything like that. Right? So that's the one thing that's missing in this world. Right? And that's why Prabhupada came to America. He came to teach people about Krishna and devotional service and how to go back to Godhead. Right? So, but if we never feel the absence of Krishna, if we're satisfied with cereal and grains and wine, they sell all these things, right? And we think, oh, this is enough for me. That means we're completely in ignorance. But if we say, wait a minute, there's no Krishna here, right? So how can we even enjoy any of these things? We should offer whatever is offerable from these things to Krishna. So instead of buying wine and liquor, we buy milk, and we buy fruits and vegetables, and we take them home, and we cook them, and we offer them to Krishna. And then Krishna offers them back as his mercy. So that's Krishna consciousness. That is there's the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. A non-devotee does not feel the absence of God. Right? And devotees, they acutely feel the absence of God in different places of this world, like in discussions with their friends in so-called birthday parties or whatever, everyone is more or less glorifying the body and bodily relationships, the body-body relationships. But the devotees are engaged in heart-to-heart or soul-to-soul relationships. That's different than the body-to-body. And when there's body-to-body relationships, like for example, girls, they always talk about, the latest makeup, right? So, eyelashes, you make your eyelashes longer by pasting something on your eyes, or lipstick, or the latest face cover to hide blemishes, and all that nonsense. Or different types of things for sense gratification. And boys, they'll talk about sports and the latest IT stuff and other nonsense things. But devotees, they're not talking about those things. Well, real devotees, that is, right? Because they're more interested, they're concerned about the absence of Krishna in all these different discussions and stores and products and so forth. So they're looking for Krishna, and the other people are forgetting Krishna and looking for objects for sense gratification and discussion of different types of sense gratification. So therefore, in this way, all the gopis were madly, that means in a very extreme way, feeling the absence of Krishna. When we madly feel the absence of Krishna, we will be ready to go back to Godhead. See? And we're already back to Godhead, even in this material world, because we're missing the one thing that is most important, and that's our dear Krishna and Radha and Krishna and all the inhabitants of the spiritual world. We're missing their association because everybody else has canceled them and keeping them out. Just like you don't hear anything much about God in these schools, except if it's the God of the Indians, right? Not you guys, but the other Indians, the Western Indians, the hoo, ha, 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 ha guys, with the drum, like that. Yeah, they'll talk about the Indian religion, which is completely Mayavad. But maybe they'll talk a little bit in the world religion class, but they give the wrong understanding. They say, well, Hindus believe in many gods, and they don't eat meat. See how stupid they are. They got all these cows and they don't eat them. Well, now the Indians have understood this, and now they started eating them also. But that's not for devotees. Devotees protect cows and brahmanas and have respect for elders, and they are not interested in all the different mundane topics of this material world. They want to hear about Krishna, and they want to experience transcendental relationships and emotions in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so then it says, in some places they found the imprints of the marks on the soles of his feet. Now, nobody has imprints on the soles of their feet, especially not a flag, a lotus flower, and the trident and the thunderbolt. Have you ever seen a person who has those signs on the bottom of their feet, and when they walk, it leaves an imprint on the sand or the earth? No. So this is one very unique thing about Krishna. Then it says, after seeing those footprints, they exclaimed, "Oh, here's the impression of the marks on the soles of Krishna's feet. All the marks, such as the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, and the thunderbolt, are distinctly visible here." Well, see, this is the vision of a devotee. A devotee notices things that other people don't notice, and they recognize that this is Krishna. Like, for example, when you see the sunshine, they say, they don't say, "Oh, it's a nice day today. Oh, maybe it's a little too hot." No, they don't say that. They say, "Oh, this is Krishna's Brahma Jyoti," right? they understand things because they've read Bhagavad Gita, and now they learn how to see Krishna in the material world through his energies and his expansions. So, and then when they, on a hot day, they drink some cool water and it quenches their thirst, they say, oh, this is Krishna. See, because he's the taste of water, and it quenches their thirst. And when they hear the cows, when they go, oh, they say, oh, the cows are chanting Om, right? Which is a fact, right? So they know how to recognize Krishna in nature because it's explained in depth in the Bhagavad Gita, right? And then also when they see some 7-foot basketball player, go like this, he dunks the ball in the hoop. They say, "Wow, that ability, that's coming from Krishna." See, so because they've heard Bhagavad Gita and now they know how to recognize Krishna through his energies, his expansions in the material world. Krishna is present everywhere. He's present in every atom of this universe, and is present in the heart of every living entity. So how can you not see Krishna? Well, you can not see Krishna if you refuse to hear anything about Krishna spoken by genuine devotees. You can completely ignore all these things. So most people don't see much. Just like when you're looking at someone else, well, how much of them do you see? Do you see the heart? Do you see the liver? Do you see the gallbladder? Do you see the bones? Do you see the ligaments? Do you see the tendons? Do you see the plasma? Do you see the blood? Sometimes you see blood. But no, when you look at them, you don't really see much of a person when you look at them because there's a lot to see, right? It's only when you go to the biology class in your advanced biology course in school and you dissect a frog, you start saying, whoa, wait a minute, there's all these things, muscles and this and that. And then when you want to be a doctor, you have to dissect a human being, a dead body, right? Then you say, whoa, right underneath the skin, there's all these things, right? And you got to learn the names of all of them. There's thousands of names you have to memorize to be a doctor, So, so you suddenly say, but there's something you don't see. You don't see the soul in the dead body, right? You don't even see this, but you can see the soul in the living body because the presence of the soul is consciousness. And the one thing that's missing when somebody is dead, there's no consciousness, right? There's no sensitivity. Just like you can do this experiment. If you're next to someone who's dying and it's their last moments, and you get a pin and you stick it in their finger, right? They will move. Or they'll say, ouch, And the other people will freak out. What are you trying to do? You trying to kill him or what? But after he dies, you can stick as many pins as you want into the body. No one really cares at that point because he's not there. He left. His soul left the body. Therefore, the body is dead meat. That's why, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I have. One day, in 228th Avenue, a person hit a deer, and the deer limped across the street, or she crossed the street, and it went into where, the parking lot of the water tower people, and died, right? And then a couple of days later, the stink of the rotting flesh of that deer started wafting through the temple. And I was trying to, I could smell it, I said, wow, where is that coming from? So I sort of followed the smell, and I had to go around the fence. I walked into their little wooded area on the other side of the fence, and I saw something I couldn't believe. There were thousands of maggots eating the flesh of that deer. And I was just looking at it, and I said, my God, I said, this is what nature is doing. This is called what you would consider nature's way of digesting a dead body. Now, where did the maggots come from? That's an important question. Where did the maggots come from? So there's two ideas about it. One is flies leave their eggs on the body of the dead animal, and the maggots are born from that. And the maggots were big and fat because they were eating that body, right? But then there's another thing, that it could come from the intestines of a human being, because there are living entities in our body. There's all kinds of different living entities in our body. And sometimes people have a high meat consumption, they have maggots and other things in their intestinal tract, right? So, but anyway, seeing that really shocked me, because you could see how nature has its way of breaking down things and then assimilating them back into the earth. So anyway, that was very instructive when I saw that, because I realized Krishna knows how to, let's say, bring things back to their original state: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence. So he knows how to break things down, or as you would say, they would be reintegrated into the earth. So therefore it says that they began to follow the footprints, and shortly they saw another set of footprints besides them, and immediately they became very sorry. Dear friends, just see, whose are these other footprints? They are beside the footprints of the son of Maharaj Nanda, meaning Krishna. It is certainly Krishna passing through, resting his hand on some other gopi, exactly as an elephant goes side by side with his beloved mate. We must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with greater affectionate love than ourselves. Well, that's a good point, because if you have love and devotion for Krishna, he takes a special interest in you. Just like, let's say you have a friend, and they're always speaking nicely about you to other people. And then you meet one of those other people, and they say, oh, you know, I met so-and-so, and she was talking so nicely about you, and it really gave me a new understanding of who you are. Well, would you like that person? You're darn right you do. You know, you say, well, I want to go thank her, and I want to be friends with her, you know. And now, if you have another friend, and they always speak badly about you, and they say, well, you know, she did this, and she did that, and she said this, and did you see the clothes she had on the other day? It was really terrible. And then you hear about it. Would you like that person? Huh? No way. You see, so if we speak nicely about Krishna and glorify him, what do you think will happen? Krishna will take a special interest in you, right? Because you're reciting the Brahma Samhita or different prayers that glorify Krishna. There's so many great devotees that glorify Krishna, and all their glorification is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's also in the Bhagavad Gita. Oh yeah, you don't have to make up any prayers. Just like the Christians say, well, let us have a prayer now. Let's hold hands. And then one of them says, dear Jesus, our brother Kevin has some cancer, and we want you, and we want to pray to you right now that please heal his cancer. Is that a prayer? No, that's not a prayer. That's some kind of, business transaction with Jesus, right? You got to do this, Jesus. No, that's not a prayer. But when you glorify Jesus, or you glorify Krishna, that's a prayer, right? Just like if someone is always asking you, give me this and give me that, are they your friend? No, they're probably your enemy, because they always want to take something away from you. But when people say, oh, here's some prasadam, I made it for you, I was thinking about you, and I thought you would love, I know you like this special dish. So you say, whoa, wow, this is really nice, thank you very much. So we should be always offering to Krishna, not asking for things from Krishna. And we should be always glorifying Krishna, not ignoring Krishna. And that way you attract Krishna. Krishna becomes interested in you. See? So here the gopis, they're acting a little bit, they're upset that Radharani has sequestered Krishna by her loving devotion, and Krishna has walked away from the gopis. And they say, and you can see how the gopis, they're not seeing Radha and Krishna, they're seeing their footprints. Just like, American Indians, they're good at following the prints of people's feet or their horses, and they can track people by their prints. They know how to look at the earth and see how long somebody went by this place, and whether they're on a horse or they're walking on their feet. They know how to track people by their prints. So this is what the gopis are doing also. So then it says, we must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with greater affectionate love than ourselves. Now, basically, they're criticizing Radharani, but actually they're glorifying her. So this is the way devotees speak. Even if something sounds like a criticism, but actually they're always glorifying that other person. And then it says, because of this, although he has left us, he could not leave her company. He has taken her along with him. Dear friends, just imagine how the dust of this place is transcendently glorious. Now, because Radha and Krishna's footprints are on the earth and basically the dust on the ground, now they're understanding something, that this is not ordinary dust. This is the dust that's been touched by the feet of Krishna himself and Radharani. So this is transcendentally glorious. So you see how something mundane becomes transcendently glorious. Just like you go and buy some potatoes and broccoli and this thing and that thing and take it home. So these are ordinary things, right? But as soon as you cook it and offer it to Krishna, it changes. It becomes something transcendently glorious called prasadam. Now, I actually saw this once. It was very instructive to me. I had to qualify myself to be a priest that can enter into the Monroe prison. Not that I did something wrong and went to prison, but I was a priest. So I got to go into the prison. Now, it's not easy to get into the prison. There's so many locked doors you have to go through, right? And imagine it's much harder to get out, right? So I got in there, and there were a couple of people who requested a Krishna devotee to come to preach to them. So, and they have this special room where you can meet your minister or pastor or imam or the priest or a devotee. So anyway, we were in that room, and we had a little Bhagavad Gita class, and then I say, oh, I forgot, I brought some prasadam. So I had my back to them, and I was opening up the prasadam and putting it on a little table, and I didn't hear anything, and I was wondering how come they're not talking. This became very quiet. So when I turned around, they were like staring with, their eyes were like focused on the prasadam. And one of them said, is that prasadam from the temple? Was it offered to the deities? I said, yeah. Why? Why do you ask? Guys, he said, that's prasadam. And all of a sudden they bowed down to it. And I was shocked. I said to myself, my God, I wish I had the same appreciation of prasadam that they do. These guys are more advanced than I am. Just look, They were in prison. They never came to the temple, but they had read about prasadam, and now they're seeing it, and they were like overwhelmed. And at one point, one of them said, "Can we actually eat that?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I mean, they were so enthralled that they were afraid even to touch it. Right? It was so holy to them. So you see, there are some virtues being in jail, right? Because you begin to appreciate all those things you can't do, that you used to do, you took it for granted, But this was even more special because these people in jail, they developed this yearning for Krishna consciousness, see? And that's, therefore, maybe it's better to be in jail, right? Because, outside there's so many ways of forgetting Krishna. In jail, you can develop great feelings of separation from Krishna, right? And Krishna's devotees. Anyway, it says here, we must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with greater affectionate love than ourselves. Because of this, although he has left us, he could not leave her company. He has taken her along with him. Dear friends, just imagine how the dust of this place is transcendently glorious. The dust of the lotus feet of Krishna is worshipped even by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the goddess of fortune. What? Lord Shiva is worshipping the dust that Krishna's lotus feet has touched? So one time, long time ago, I was in Vrindavan before the Krishna Balaram temple was finished being constructed. So it was basically a construction site. And we had to sleep outside. I was sleeping on a little sand dune of sand that was being used to make concrete. And we had to, there was only one well. There was no running water there. And we had to go and get the bucket, from that was down, bring it up, and then we'd go and sort of bathe ourselves, early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then get ready for Mangala Aarti. And then there was one place where you could, pass stool and urine and things like that. So it was really like camping out, right? But it was a construction site. And at that time, one of Prabhupada's servants called me and he said, "Prabhu, there's nobody else that wants to go and fetch water from the well for Prabhupada. Can you do that? Because Prabhupada wants to take a bath." I said, "Yeah, okay." So I walked, it was a little bit of a distance. Prabhupada's house was there. The temple had not been finished yet. And I walked over and then I did get, they give you a stick like this, and there's 2 ropes connected to the buckets, and then you have to put one bucket down and bring the water up, and then you put the other bucket down, you bring the water up, and then you have to tie it to the rod, right? And then you put it on your neck like this, and hold it like this, and you have to walk. And I walked, and I went to the outer room of Prabhupada's house, and the devotee said, "Oh, thank you very much. Nobody else wanted to do that. Thank you for doing it." So then he took those buckets into Prabhupada's room, and I just stood there. I couldn't really see what was happening, but I did see Prabhupada a little bit, and then it sort of disappeared. I think they closed the door or something. And then later on he came back, and then I saw him sweeping Prabhupada's room, and he told me, "Don't go away. I'd stay here for a few minutes." So I stayed, and then he brought me this little container that had the dust from the room. And he said, "I want to give you this. This is the dust from Prabhupada's lotus feet." So at first I thought it was a little strange that it's giving me that. But then I realized, no, this is the dust that Prabhupada's lotus feet touched. So then I really was very careful with it, and I realized that this was a special gift, a gift that was once in a lifetime, to get the dust of the lotus feet of this divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So those are the types of relationships that you have with devotees in the Holy Dham. They see things very clearly that we don't see, that we take for granted. But there's a story about this one very rich man. He was a crorepati who came to Vrindavan, and before he entered Vrindavan, he took his shoes off and he put them in a little plastic bag, and he had another plastic bag too. So he enters Vrindavan and he goes on parikram and all the different things. But whenever he passed stool and urine, he passed it in the plastic bag. So they asked him, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Oh, I cannot pass stool and urine in Vrindavan and contaminate the place with my nonsense," he said. So he was carrying that bag out of Vrindavan, and then he would, I guess, dispose of it somewhere, right? But he refused to pass stool and urine in Vrindavan. Now, you hear about these things, and this is very strange, but actually there are people like that that have such respect for Vrindavan that they don't want to contaminate it with their own stool and urine. And so there's so many things that are beyond our imagination, but when you go there, sometimes you begin to see these things, and you realize this is a very holy place, and these people are very advanced devotees because they realize the holiness of this place, right? So then it says, "Dear friends, the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna is worshipped even by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. But at the same time, we are very sorry that this particular gopi has gone along with Krishna, for she is enjoying the nectar of Krishna's kisses and leaving us aside to lament. Oh friends, just see, at this particular spot, we do not see the footprints of that gopi. It appears that because there were some pinpricks from the dried grass, Krishna took Radharani on his shoulder. Oh, she is so dear to him. Krishna must have picked some flowers in this spot to satisfy Radharani." So what are they doing? They're tracking Radha and Krishna's trajectory, and they're seeing what they were doing by looking at the prints on the ground. You say this. They're like American Indian scouts, right? But they're much greater than them, and they can understand exactly what happened, not by seeing it, but just looking at the footprints. Right? It's very interesting. And then it says, "She is so dear to him. Krishna must have picked some flowers in this spot to satisfy Radharani, because here, where he stood erect to get the flowers from the high branches of the tree, we find only half the impression of his feet." You see how meticulously they're looking, right? And they can understand what's going on, right? "Dear friends, just see how Krishna must have sat down here." So now there's 3 different places they're noticing things from the prints, right? It says, "Dear friends, just see how Krishna must have sat down here with Radharani and tried to set flowers in her hair. You can be certain that both of them sat together here." Okay, how can you be certain? Well, because they're experts at studying prints of impressions in the ground. That's why. "Krishna is self-sufficient." Now, this is not the gopi speaking. "Krishna is self-sufficient. He has nothing to enjoy from any other source. Yet, just to satisfy his devotee, he treated Radharani exactly as a lusty boy treats his girlfriend." Well, here they're giving an example of something in the material world to understand something in the spiritual world. You start with the known to understand the unknown. So, yeah, but is Krishna a lusty boy, like an ordinary boy in the material world with his girlfriend? Absolutely not. However, the lusty boy with his girlfriend is a perverted reflection in the darkness of what's happening in the spiritual world. So there is a connection between what people are doing here and what's happening in the spiritual world. But it's a what you would call a perverted reflection. So what's a perverted reflection? We've explained this before. Whatever is happening there is upside down here. And whatever is happening there in the light of the Brahmajyoti, here it's a reflection in darkness. And what is that reflection in darkness? We see that when there's a dark night and you're driving and you look on your left-hand side, you're the driver, and you see a reflection of yourself in the window, in the driver's side window. That reflection is a perverted reflection in darkness. It took me years to understand what they were talking about whenever it said a reflection in darkness. Until one day, I was looking out my window a little bit as I was driving, and I see myself, right? But it's in the window. It's not, or at least because on the other side, it was completely dark. And there might have been a little bit light, like a lamp in the street lamp. And you see yourself in the window, right? That is a reflection in darkness, right? Okay, but it's inverted. It's upside down in the material world. So everything we're seeing here is upside down, perverted reflection, right? And unless we understand that, we take this upside down, perverted reflection in darkness as reality. But actually, it's a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Okay, so it's not that Krishna is a lusty boy like an ordinary boy with his girlfriend. Krishna is so kind that he always tolerates the disturbances created by his girlfriends. Whoa. Now, gentlemen, now you know how you have to act. You cannot be disturbed by your wife or different friends or whatever. You have to learn to tolerate like Krishna, right? In this way, all the gopis pointed out the faults of the particular gopi who had been taken alone by Krishna. Now, they're pointing out the faults, but they're actually glorifying her. That is what you would call the special way that devotees speak in the spiritual world. It sounds like they're criticizing, but actually they're glorifying Radharani, right? And now the proof that they're glorifying is coming. It says, they said that this chief gopi, Radharani, must be very proud of her position, thinking herself the greatest of the gopis. Yet, how could Krishna take her away alone, leaving all of us aside, unless she is extraordinarily qualified and beautiful? She must have taken Krishna into the deep forest and told him, my dear Krishna, I am now very tired. I cannot go any further. Please carry me wherever you like. When Krishna was spoken to in this way, he might have told Radharani, all right, better get on my shoulder. But immediately, Krishna must have disappeared, and now Radharani must be lamenting for him. Now, how are they figuring all these things out, right? They're not seeing it, right? No, this is called the sixth sense. We have 5 senses, but there's a 6th sense that you can figure out many things just by looking at prints and by understanding Krishna. You see, if you become Krishna conscious and you understand, as much as you're capable of, or we're capable of understanding Krishna, you can figure out many, many things that other people can't. You can understand many, many things that other people can't. And this is the special, what you would call telepathic power that devotees, advanced devotees develop. They can see and understand things much better than other people because they understand the relationship with Krishna and they understand Krishna's relationship with his devotees. When Krishna was spoken to in this way, he might have told Radharani, all right, Better get on my shoulder. But immediately Krishna must have disappeared, and now Radharani must be lamenting for him. My dear lover, my dearest, you are so fine and so powerful. Where have you gone? I am nothing but your most obedient maidservant. I am very much aggrieved. Please come and be with me again. Krishna, however, is not coming to her. He must be watching her from a distant place and enjoying her sorrow. Whoa! Does he enjoy the sorrow of someone? Yes, because he is instructing. And he's also the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not attached to anything. But he becomes attached to his devotee. And he likes to see his devotee missing his company, because that's a sign of their love. And in the material world, like I knew this one guy who, a very handsome guy, and one day he met this girl, and they were striking up a relationship, and then something happened, and he had to go to jail. And over time, his so-called girlfriend was coming to see him in the jail, and they would talk. But eventually, she sent him a letter and said, I'm not interested in you anymore. I found another person. Whoa. So this is the material world, right? But in the spiritual world, Krishna leaves Radharani. She doesn't say, well, there's a dime a dozen men in this world, so I'm not worried about him, I can just flip him and find somebody else. No. It creates more yearning, right? That's separation from Krishna. So this is what Lord Chaitanya came to teach us. That's in a very intense feeling of separation from Krishna. So intense that one cannot bear it. Okay. So all the gopis then went further and further into the forest, searching out Krishna. But when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, they became very sorry. This is the difference between an envious person and a loving friend. And we see that the devotees, the gopis did not have any rancor or anger or jealousy of Radharani. Even when they were trying to criticize Radharani, they were glorifying her, right? And now is the proof, because as soon as they see that Krishna did leave Radharani, and she was very sad and feeling the separation from him, they felt sorry for her. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. This is the test of Krishna consciousness, that you or we are not envious people, right? And there's a very nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita that explains this in depth. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Well, this verse says that a devotee, by analyzing himself, can understand the emotions of others and be very, let's say, sympathetic, not envious, not mean, not. They don't have a mean bone in their body. That's a saying in English. Someone who uses harsh language and criticizes and backbiting, they say every bone in their body is mean, right? But when someone's really nice, they say that person doesn't have a mean bone in their body, right? So this is the gopis. They don't have a mean bone in their body. And even when they're criticizing Radharani, they're glorifying her. And then Prabhupada says, this is the proof of, this is the test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna had taken Radharani alone, leaving aside all the other gopis. But as soon as they knew that Krishna had also left Radharani and that she was alone lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic to her. The gopis found Radharani and heard everything from her about how she had misbehaved with Krishna and how she was proud and was insulted for her pride. Krishna what? He insults her for her pride by leaving her hanging on a branch of a tree, right? After hearing all this, they became actually very sympathetic. Then all the gopis, including Radharani, proceeded further into the forest until they could no longer see the moonlight. So this is all wonderful information. And you can see that you can go over it line by line and see the depth of the instruction that's coming through this. So that's the difference between reading and hearing. When you hear things spoken by genuine devotees, you get a much deeper understanding than if you just read it. Right? Therefore, reading is good, but you must hear also. And because our biggest disease is called forgetfulness, right? It's important to hear regularly, because most of the time it goes in one ear and comes out the other ear, right? And it doesn't, there's nothing to stop it in between, because it's sort of empty space between the two ears, right? But when you become more, let's say, expert in hearing, in reverent hearing, remember that word, reverent hearing, you hear with great appreciation that this is the luckiest thing for me to be able to hear about Krishna's pastimes spoken by nice devotees. And I'm so happy that I'm able to do this, right? Because you will remember things much better because you heard it spoken, and it'll stay in your mind. Like I can remember things that I experienced with Prabhupada 50 years ago, right? And it's always stayed in my mind. It hasn't gone away, right? Whereas if you tell me something, like 2 or 3 minutes later, I'll say, "Oh, can you repeat what you said? I can't remember," right? And in a few minutes, I forgot, right? But some things that I experienced with Prabhupada, I can remember. I can actually visualize it today, exactly how it happened. See, and this is what happens when you hear transcendental things and see transcendental things, that stays in the mind for your whole lifetime. But when you see mundane things, like, let's say you read the newspaper yesterday. Can you remember what you read? Probably not, right? So our disease is forgetfulness. Okay, are there any questions? We'll stop right there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So
Yes.
my question is, when you're giving the example of like when the Christian, like they do false prayer when like they like hold their hands and then like
Yes, okay.
they like pray like, oh, I want Jeff to like be free from cancer. So like if in Krishna consciousness, let's say if you want to actually heal like Jeff, then like how would you do that? Like
Hare Krishna,
You
Hare
just chant.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Jeff, now repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jeff, the only person that can really heal you is Krishna. So that's the person you should be praying to. Right?
Okay. But that also says like, so like you're glorifying Krishna and like you're also asking
Yes.
him to heal him.
Well, what are we trying to heal? We're trying to heal lust, anger,
Greed.
greed, madness, illusion, and enviousness.
Okay.
And the healing is chanting Hare Krishna and respecting prasadam, and also hearing lectures in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and going out on Sankirtan and preaching. That's the healing right there. You don't have to worry about the disease. Let Krishna worry about the disease. You just worry about doing these 6 things on a regular basis. And then Krishna will take care of things. Either he'll bring you back to Godhead, right? Because you're hearing, chanting, respecting prasadam, and going on Sankirtan and preaching. Or he'll say, well, your preaching is very important for me, so let's just cancel this cancer. It's done. Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks on the boat on the Jaladuta coming from Calcutta to Boston, right? There was no doctor on the boat. There was no hospital on the boat. But he survived 2 heart attacks. How did that happen? Krishna. Okay, Krishna. Krishna saved him so he could come and do his preaching. So most people say, well, no, you gotta have some heart, you gotta put some stents in there, and you gotta get some angioplasty and things like that. No, you don't need anything like that. You just need Krishna. That's the most important thing. So either you die and go back to Godhead, or you are given some more time, what's called a second chance, to preach and be Krishna conscious. Both ways you're a winner, right? But if you ignore all this, then you're a loser. You don't go back to Godhead, you go to hell, to Narak, and you associate with the Yamadutas, who are really nasty people. So you're a 2-time winner if you chant Hare Krishna, and you're a 2-time loser if you don't.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hari Bol. Any other questions? Yeah.
This class was amazing. Because after you first read the purport, I was thinking it's only 2 paragraphs, and then I think you're going to continue to the next, chapter.
Yeah.
But I think as you started going back and reading every line and articulating the principles of Krishna consciousness is amazing.
Yeah. In every word, there is a whole book of realizations. That's how powerful Prabhupada's, writing is. Why? And he said that he has to consider every word when he's translating, right? So, and he's jam-packed, every word, every sentence, every paragraph, full of deeper and deeper realizations. And the more we get purified, the more we begin to see them. We go back and we see deeper and deeper realizations of even one word, let alone the whole sentence. So here's the verse that I was trying to find. It says, he is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and its distress, O Arjuna. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. This is Jeff's problem. See? So what do? You help Jeff remember his relationship with God, right? Krishna. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being, who is conditioned by the modes of material nature, is subjected to the 3-fold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. See, when you forget Krishna, then you become attacked by the 3-fold miseries. Adi Atmika, Adi Bautika, Adi Daivika. Miseries caused by the body, miseries caused by other bodies or people, and miseries caused by natural cataclysmic events. That's because of forgetfulness of Krishna. So what happens if you remember Krishna? Those three types of miseries are canceled, or Krishna puts a stop to it. So you're free to be Krishna conscious. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. That's called preaching, distributing the knowledge of Krishna everywhere, because now you're not troubled by the three types of miseries in the material world. So now you're happy, and now you can see that unless you're a happy person in Krishna consciousness, you will never be an effective preacher. And people will see it too. They'll see what this person is saying sounds good, but they don't look good. Saying. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world. That means a person who gives a lot of charity and does good things for others is a philanthropist, right? And he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Nachatasman manusyes su kaschit me priyakritama. Bhagavad Gita 1869. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities. Oh, there's a little creature in my book walking across this page. Oh, I should not hurt that creature. See? Sometimes you see little insects in your book, right? You shouldn't hurt them. Why? Because, in other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities. And in this way, he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who's trying his best to turn every person toward Krishna consciousness. Whoa. So that's what we should do. Try and turn every person to Krishna consciousness. Then we are a real devotee. Haribol. This is the 6th chapter, 32nd verse. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. This should be our next wisdom, the wisdom cookie, right? Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Who is going to chant the Guru Puja prayers? Any volunteers?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando mui savadana te Jahara prasade bar E Baba Toriya Jai. Krishna prapti ho jahote. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Koriya Kya. Arana kori ho mane asha. Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Jai Prasad Pure Sarva Asha. Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. Prema Bhakti Chaha Hote Avidya Vinasha Jate. Vede Gaya Jahara Charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu. Lokinath Loke Rajivana. Aha Prabhu Koro Daya Deho More Pada Chaya. Eve Jas Kushuk Tribhuvana. Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityanandana Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva.
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परियाष्टोत्तर श्री डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर शिला प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की प्रेम को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंडगिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम मधुरा धाम की मायापुर धाम नवदीप धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माँ यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की शिला प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की कलियुग पावन श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories Srila Prabhupada ki jai. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय बदले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्यनामणि नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तरणी.
The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which pre-devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and the master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your frame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.